Lyra stood at the edge of the amphitheater, her pale green eyes scanning the audience. Hundreds of aliens from different planets were gathered below, their bodies glinting under the bright lights of the hall. Long snouts, feathered wings, and segmented limbs filled every available space. She raised her hand, and the chatter slowly faded. "Today," Lyra began, her voice calm and confident, "we will discuss the history of the human species." A ripple of amusement spread through the crowd. Humans, the weakest species in the galaxy, barely advanced enough to travel beyond their home world. Most aliens laughed openly. Lyra herself suppressed a smile. "You've all heard the stories," she continued. "Stories of humans surviving battles against impossible odds. Of humans defeating armies many times their size. Of humans performing acts of bravery that defy logic." She let her words hang in the air, watching the reaction. Some of the younger aliens looked curious, but most were rolling their eyes. Lyra shook her head slightly. "And yet, when we study history closely, we find exaggeration, myth, legend. Humans are not weak, but they are not what the storytellers claim. They survive by luck, not skill. They fight by chance, not by design. And yet somehow, these tales of heroism continued to be told." She glanced down at the holographic display in front of her. Images of humans in battle appeared, frozen in motion humans, standing on a ruined battlefield, facing giant alien machines. Her tone was scholarly, yet full of amusement. "Notice how many of these warriors barely survive. Look at the odds. A species that almost always loses, yet somehow is remembered as heroic. Interesting, isn't it?" A few aliens snickered. Lyra's audience was enjoying her mockery of the humans. She allowed herself a small smile. She liked being right, and today she would be right again. "Let us move to the so-called Great Human Wars," she said, tapping the console. The hologram changed to display a battle on a planet called Orionine. Humans were outnumbered, outgunned, and outmatched. According to reports, nearly all humans were killed. Yet, somehow, the survivors were called heroes. Lyra laughed softly. "Legends are always more interesting than reality. Humans survived, yes, but by fleeing, hiding, and waiting for rescue. Heroism? Perhaps in stories? Reality? I think not." At that moment, her assistant, a small winged alien named Kira, nudged her. Lyra ignored the gesture. She was enjoying the lecture far too much. Suddenly, the communication screen behind her flickered. An incoming report from the Outer Rim planets blinked urgently. Lyra frowned. She had been expecting routine updates about mining colonies, not war reports. Kira whispered Lyra, "It's from the frontier. Something is happening on Terrax 7. Lyra waved her off. Probably another border dispute. Nothing humans could handle anyway. She returned her attention to the audience, but deep down, a small curiosity pricked her mind. For centuries, humans had been underestimated. They were weak, yes, but somehow they survived. Could it be that some stories were true? No, she shook the thought away. Legends were dangerous when taken seriously, and she had no intention of believing them. After the lecture, Lyra wandered through the hall's observation deck. The amphitheater overlooked a massive city filled with spacecraft docks, alien markets, and crowded streets. She loved observing civilizations. It reminded her of her place as a historian. Kira followed, eyes wide. "Do you really think the humans were heroic? Even a little?" Lyra stopped and looked at her assistant. "Heroic." Kira, think carefully. "Humans survive by luck, by stubbornness, by running and hiding when necessary. That is not heroism. That is survival. And survival is common. Very common, but the stories," Kira said softly. "Some humans seem different." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "Different how?" "They fight in ways we cannot predict. They adapt to situations better than most species. They can be brave, even when the odds are against them." Kira's voice was filled with awe. Lyra laughed. "Ah, you're letting stories control your thoughts." "I am a historian, Kira. My job is to look at facts. Humans are fascinating, yes, but not legendary. Remember that. That night, Lyra could not sleep. She stared out of her window at the stars, the glow of distant planets, and the dark void stretching endlessly. Her mind kept returning to the Terek 7 report. Something was happening there, and humans were somehow involved. She made a decision. Tomorrow she would travel to Terek 7, not as a tourist, but as an observer. If humans were there, she wanted to see for herself. She told herself it was purely professional. She would document their failures, their weaknesses, their mistakes. Early the next morning, Lyra boarded a sleek observation craft. Kira insisted on joining her. "I will not let you face unknown humans alone," she said, flapping her small wings. Lyra smiled, though inwardly she felt a faint excitement she refused to admit. Perhaps it would be interesting to see humans in their natural environment. The trip to Terek 7 was long, craft speeding through asteroid belts and nebula clouds. Lyra reviewed her notes and prepared her equipment. She would record everything, every action, every misstep. She would prove that humans were as ordinary as she believed. When they arrived, the planet's surface came into view. Jagged mountains and barren plains stretched for miles. Smoke rose from distant settlements. The first signs of conflict were clear burnt-out vehicles, damaged buildings, and the occasional movement of figures too small to see clearly. Lyra adjusted her instruments. She could feel her heart beating faster. She told herself it was curiosity, nothing more. The alien forces stationed on the planet were struggling. They had set up fortified positions, but small, fast-moving groups kept appearing and disappearing. Sensors indicated humans were involved. Lyra's eyes widened slightly, though she quickly reminded herself that humans were weak. Weakness often hides in cleverness. Over the next few days, Lyra observed from a safe distance. She recorded human movements, noting every error, every retreat. And yet, each time, the humans returned, sometimes with injuries, sometimes barely surviving. Something about them was remarkable. But Lyra ignored the feeling. It must be exaggeration. It must. One evening, as the sun set over the jagged mountains, Lyra observed a small human group trapped by alien forces. She expected them to flee, to hide, to be captured easily. But instead, they fought back not recklessly, but strategically. Every movement was precise, every action planned. The humans managed to escape, leaving the aliens confused and frustrated. Lyra blinked. She watched the footage again, unable to deny what she had seen. "Lucky," she muttered to herself. "Pure luck." Kira, sitting beside her, shook her head. "I think they are more than that," Lyra frowned. "No, Kira, do not start believing stories. Humans survive by chance, nothing more." But as night fell and the distant glow of alien campfires flickered below, Lyra could not stop thinking. Maybe the legends were not entirely false. Maybe there was something more to these humans than anyone had believed. And deep inside, a small voice whispered one that she refused to acknowledge, that she was about to witness a human warrior. Not in story or legend, but in reality. For now. She pushed the thought aside. The historian in her demanded evidence, proof, records. The skeptic in her dismissed everything else. But fate, as it often does, was already preparing to challenge her beliefs. The morning sun rose over Terek 7, painting the jagged mountains and dusty plains in shades of gold and orange. Lyra adjusted her observation lenses and scanned the horizon. From her high vantage point, she could see the alien soldiers moving in formation below, their heavy armor glinting in the light. Yet something felt off. "These formations are supposed to be perfect," Lyra muttered, noting the subtle gaps in the ranks. "But they are not functioning as they should." Kira, perched on her shoulder, peered through her own lens. "Do you see it too?" she whispered. Small figures moving so fast, disappearing into the shadows. Lyra's brow furrowed. She had seen many species fight, many armies clash, but these movements were unusual. Tiny, precise, almost like a dance. And every time alien soldiers tried to advance, These small groups she suspected humans intercepted them, then vanished before they could be caught. Curious, Lyra murmured. Extremely curious, she adjusted her instruments to track their paths. Patterns began to emerge. The humans did not act randomly. Every action had purpose, every movement carefully timed. They were avoiding direct confrontation when unnecessary, yet striking at the perfect moment. Kira nudged her shoulder. Do you think humans could actually be clever enough to do this? Lyra waved her hand dismissively. Clever or lucky? Sometimes in chaos, even the weakest species can stumble into success. But deep down, she could not deny the evidence. Humans were surviving in ways that defied all known logic. She reminded herself. She was a historian, an observer. Emotions and admiration had no place in her work. As the day progressed, reports came in from alien commanders. Enemy forces are more organized than predicted, one message read. Our squads are being ambushed and retreating without reason, Lyra frowned. The reports matched her observations exactly. Humans were small in number, yet they seemed to anticipate every alien movement. They used the terrain, the shadows, even the wind to their advantage. The alien technology, far superior in firepower, was failing to dominate. That's impossible, Lyra muttered. This should not happen. That evening, Lyra decided to follow one of the human groups more closely. Using a small, silent reconnaissance drone, she tracked them from above. The humans moved with remarkable coordination. They communicated with hand signals and soft calls, disappearing behind ridges and rocks, appearing where needed. Every step was calculated. Every choice had purpose. She paused as the drone's camera focused on a human standing atop a small hill, silhouetted against the setting sun. He was alone, tall, and his presence commanded attention. Even in the distance, Lyra could see the calm confidence in his stance. Unlike the aliens, who moved in rigid patterns, he seemed unpredictable. Fluid, Kira gasped softly beside her. He's different. Lyra shook her head. No, Kira, do not romanticize. It is still luck. Yet the thought did not fully convince her. She watched as the human raised his hand slightly. Others nearby moved instantly, responding to his silent command. It was subtle, almost invisible, yet effective. The following days were a test of patience. Lyra recorded every encounter, every skirmish. The humans continued to outmaneuver the alien forces. Small squads of aliens would charge, expecting easy victories, only to be met with traps, misdirection, and unexpected counterattacks. Buildings were defended with clever devices made from simple materials. Barricades appeared where none should have been. And always, the humans survived. One day, a human scout team was cornered near a canyon. Lyra expected them to surrender or be captured. Instead, the human warrior she had seen earlier led a small strike team. They moved silently, appearing from hidden positions, disabling alien drones, and creating chaos. Within minutes, the cornered humans were free, and the alien squad was forced to retreat. Lyra could hardly believe her eyes. She rewound her recordings, checking again and again. Each action had precision. Each escape had planning. This was not luck. Kira looked at her, eyes wide. They are. Really good. Lyra exhaled slowly. Yes, they are better than I expected. Her voice was quieter than she intended, almost a whisper. She tried to remind herself, historian, not fan. Document, do not admire. But admiration was creeping in, whether she liked it or not. Later, Lyra attempted to approach the human position closer, hoping to observe without being detected. Using the terrain as cover, she and Kira moved toward a ridge, overlooking a hidden valley. From there, they could see a small settlement of human simple shelters. Improvised defensive walls, a sense of order that defied the chaos surrounding them. They're organized, Lyra whispered. Despite everything, they're organized. Kira nodded. They even train together, don't they? Lyra observed a group of humans practicing movements that looked like combat drills. They were fast, precise, and coordinated. One human, taller than the rest, seemed to lead the exercises, His focus was intense, his movements smooth and effortless. Lyra's mind raced. Could it be possible that humans had evolved to survive against impossible odds? Perhaps the legends were not entirely false. But no, she reminded herself, it was still anecdotal. Observation, not judgment. That night, as they camped near the ridge, Lyra could not sleep. Her mind replayed the day's events. Humans had evaded ambushes, turned defensive positions into traps, and even counterattacked with clever tactics. It was more than adaptation, it was strategy, intelligence, and courage combined. She tried to suppress the feeling building inside her. She was a scholar, a historian. Belief in legends had no place in her work. But the more she thought about it, the harder it became to deny. The next morning, alien forces attempted a coordinated strike on the human settlement. Lyra and Kira watched from their observation point. The humans, though few in number, moved with precision. Each human knew exactly where to be, what to do, and when to act. Barricades were reinforced just in time. Ambushes were countered with perfect timing. One human, the tall warrior she had seen before, directed the movement silently. He was everywhere at once, anticipating alien actions, correcting mistakes, and protecting his people. Lyra could no longer call it luck. Every action had logic. Every decision had reason. Humans were not merely surviving, they were thriving in ways the aliens could not predict. Kira whispered, "I think we are witnessing a human warrior in action." Lyra's hand trembled slightly as she adjusted her instruments. "Perhaps," she said quietly, "perhaps we are." For the first time, she felt a not just curiosity, but genuine awe. And with that awe came a subtle fear. She had mocked humans for so long, dismissed their legends, and now she was seeing that the stories were only the beginning. The humans vanished into the shadows after the skirmish, leaving the alien forces frustrated and confused. Lyra recorded every movement, every tactic, every decision. Her notes were meticulous, her observations detailed, but her mind could not stop racing. Who were these humans? How could such a small species survive against overwhelming odds? And most importantly, what would happen when the rest of the galaxy learned what she had witnessed? Lyra and Kira stayed on the ridge long after the sun had set. The stars reflected in Lyra's eyes as she thought about what she had seen. Humans were not weak, not by any measure she had known. They were resilient, clever, and daring. And somewhere deep inside, she realized that she had underestimated them completely. For now, they remained hidden. But Lyra knew that soon she would see more. And when that moment came, she might finally understand what the legends had been trying to tell the galaxy all along. The morning mist hung low over Terek 7, turning the jagged rocks and dusty plains into a ghostly landscape. Lyra adjusted her observation lenses, her pulse quickening. Today, she would get closer than ever to the humans she had been watching from afar. Kira perched on her shoulder, eyes wide. "Are you sure this is safe?" she whispered. Lyra shook her head, though her lips pressed into a determined line. "Safe? Perhaps not. Necessary? Absolutely. If I want to understand humans, I must see them up close." The two moved carefully along the ridge, using shadows and rocks for cover. Below, the human settlement glimmered faintly in the morning light. Smoke curled from small chimneys, and figures moved between buildings in purposeful silence. "They look normal," Kira muttered. "Just like ordinary people." Lyra frowned. "Do not be fooled. There is nothing ordinary here." Her eyes scanned the terrain. Humans were clever, cautious, and unpredictable. That combination made them dangerous, even if they were few in number. Suddenly, a distant explosion echoed through the valley. Lyra's heart skipped a beat. She swung her instruments to focus. Alien soldiers had spotted a small human patrol and were advancing quickly. "Looks like a fight," Lyra said softly, almost to herself. The humans did not panic. They moved with precision, each step calculated. Lyra's eyes locked on the tall warrior she had been observing for days. He appeared almost out of nowhere, standing on a small ridge, commanding attention without a word. His presence was calm but commanding, his every motion purposeful. Kira whispered, "That's him. The one you said was different." Alira nodded silently. Her mind raced. "Yes. Watch carefully." The alien soldiers advanced in formation, expecting an easy victory. They were confident in their numbers, in their firepower, in their superior technology. But the humans were prepared. The tall warrior raised a hand, and the patrol split into smaller units. Moving like shadows across the rocks, the humans struck quickly and precisely. One soldier aimed at a human figure, only to find the target vanished as if into thin air. Another moved to flank, but a silent tripwire triggered a small explosion, sending dust and debris into the air. The humans did not retreat. They adapted instantly, countering every move. Lyra could hardly breathe. She had expected resistance, maybe some clever maneuvers. But this was something else entirely. "Look." Kira pointed as the warrior leaped down from the ridge, landing with perfect balance. He disabled an alien drone with a small device, then used the debris to block a narrow canyon. Every action was precise, every move deliberate. Lyra whispered, This is not luck. This is skill, strategy, intelligence, bravery." The skirmish intensified. Alien soldiers advanced, but every attempt to corner the humans failed. They used the terrain to their advantage, moving through narrow passes, climbing rocks, and disappearing behind shadows. The tall warrior led them with unmatched precision, guiding each human-like pieces on a board. One alien commander shouted orders, but the humans ignored the chaos around them. They focused, coordinated, and executed their plan flawlessly. Within minutes, the patrol had escaped the trap. Leaving the alien soldiers confused and frustrated, Lyra's hand trembled as she recorded every moment. She had mocked these legends for so long, dismissed every story of human bravery, and now she was seeing it firsthand. Kira's voice broke through her thoughts. "Lyra, they're incredible. Look at how he moves, calm, confident, everywhere at once." Lyra nodded, unable to deny it. "I underestimated them. Completely." The humans disappeared into the rocky terrain, leaving the aliens behind. The tall warrior paused atop a ridge, scanning the horizon as if ensuring every member of his patrol was safe. His eyes, sharp and focused, seemed to miss nothing. Lyra adjusted her instruments again, zooming in. She could see the sweat on his brow, the faint scars along his arms, the determination in every line of his posture. This was no ordinary human. This was a warrior, the embodiment of every legend she had once dismissed. For the next several hours, Lyra followed from a safe distance. The humans moved silently, avoiding open areas, setting small traps for the alien forces and helping civilians they encountered along the way. Each action was calculated, each decision made with care, Kira whispered repeatedly. How? How can they survive like this? There are too few of them. Lyra shook her head slowly. It's not just survival, Kira. It's understanding, adaptation, and courage combined. They are extraordinary. As the day wore on, Lyra began to notice something more. The humans were not only surviving, they were inspiring. Small groups of locals began helping them, passing messages, providing supplies, and warning them of alien patrols. The humans had become more than fighters. They were symbols of hope. The tall warrior, always at the forefront, seemed to understand this instinctively. He moved among the humans, giving orders, guiding civilians, and protecting the weak. His calm demeanor never faltered, even under the constant pressure of alien attacks. Lyra's mind swirled with thoughts. She had expected humans to be weak, ordinary, and unremarkable. She had expected to observe failure and record it for her studies. Instead, she was witnessing something she had never imagined, a species capable of remarkable courage, intelligence, and leadership under pressure. The sun began to set. Casting long shadows across the valley, the humans found a temporary hiding place in a narrow canyon, exhausted but safe. Lyra watched from a ridge above, her heart pounding. Kira whispered. Do you think he knows we're watching? Lyra shook her head. No. He is focused on his people, on survival. Nothing distracts him. That is the mark of a true warrior. For the first time, Lyra felt something she could not name. Respect? Awe? Perhaps both. She realized that the humans she had mocked from a distance were not ordinary at all. They were extraordinary, capable of actions that defied all logic and expectation. As night fell, Lyra and Kira made camp nearby, careful to remain hidden. The valley below was quiet now, but Lyra knew it was only temporary. The alien forces would regroup, and the humans would face more challenges. Lyra's thoughts wandered back to her lectures, to the amphitheater where she had dismissed human legends as myths. How wrong she had been. She had underestimated their courage, their intelligence, and their skill. And now, having witnessed it firsthand, she could not deny the truth. They are remarkable, she whispered into the night. Truly remarkable. Kira looked at her with wide eyes. Do you believe now? Lyra hesitated. Belief was a complicated thing for a historian. But deep down, she knew the answer. Yes, she said finally. I believe. And I will document everything, so the galaxy will know the truth about humans. The night was quiet, but Lyra could sense the tension in the air. Tomorrow would bring more challenges, more battles, and more opportunities to witness the humans' incredible abilities. She knew she was only beginning to understand them, only beginning to see what made them legends, and somewhere in the shadows, the tall human warrior rested briefly, unaware that an observer was studying him, learning from him, and beginning to understand the true power of humanity. Lyra stared up at the stars. Feeling a mixture of awe and anticipation, the legends she had mocked were real. She was about to see even more. For the first time, she no longer doubted the stories. Humans were not weak. Humans were not ordinary. They were extraordinary, and she was lucky enough to witness it firsthand. The morning sun was just rising over the jagged peaks of Tarik 7 when Lyra and Kira crept closer to the human camp. From her observation point, Lyra could see a small cluster of shelters, tents, and improvised barricades nestled in a shallow valley. The humans moved with purpose, quietly repairing structures, carrying supplies, and tending to the wounded. This is impressive, Kira whispered, her eyes wide. They live like this, and yet they are so organized. Lyra nodded silently. It is more than organization. It is strategy, intelligence, and adaptation combined. For days, she had observed from a distance, marveling at the humans' abilities. But now, she wanted more. She wanted to understand them not as stories, not as legends, but as living, breathing beings. Carefully, Lyra led Kira down a hidden path into the valley. They moved quietly, staying behind rocks and using shadows for cover. Every step brought them closer to the humans, and with every step, Lyra's curiosity grew. The tall human warrior, the one she had watched dominate skirmishes, was directing activities. He moved among the humans with calm authority, guiding, instructing, and protecting. Despite the exhaustion visible on the faces of those around him, he remained focused, alert, and in control. Lyra whispered, "He is remarkable. Every movement, every decision, perfectly calculated. He's not just a warrior, he is a leader." Kira nodded. "Do you think he notices us?" Lyra shook her head. "No, he is focused on survival, on his people. That is what makes him exceptional." So they moved closer. Lyra noticed something else. The humans were not merely defending themselves, they were helping others. Small groups of civilians, alien refugees who had been caught in the crossfire, were being guided to safety. The humans shared supplies, offered medical aid, and coordinated the movement of those in danger. "This is more than skill," Lyra murmured. "This is humanity." At that moment, the tall warrior paused near a small group of humans, including children and elders. He scanned the surroundings, assessing threats and ensuring safety. His eyes were sharp, his movements precise. Yet there was a gentleness in the way he guided the frightened civilians. Lyra felt a pang of admiration. She had expected humans to be clever, resilient, even daring, but she had not expected such compassion, such care. Even in the midst of chaos, careful not to be noticed, Lyra and Kira settled behind a ridge near the camp. They watched as the humans prepared for the next skirmish. Makeshift barricades were reinforced, weapons checked, and signals communicated silently. The tall warrior stood at the center, directing without words. "Commanding respect through presence alone," Lyra whispered. "He is extraordinary. Not just a fighter, but a protector, a guide, a leader. The legends. They do not exaggerate." Kira glanced at her. "Do you believe now?" Lyra nodded slowly. "Do. And I want to understand why. Why these humans can do what they do, why they survive, why they inspire." As the day progressed, Lyra observed more closely. The humans moved with purpose. But their actions were not just tactical, they were deliberate choices based on ethics, care, and responsibility. Every life mattered. Every decision considered the greater good. Finally, when the sun was high, Lyra decided to make a bold move. Using a small drone for distraction, she slipped into the human camp. Staying hidden behind structures and using shadows to conceal her approach, she needed to see them up close, to understand their methods, and to discover the source of their courage. The camp was bustling with activity. Humans were repairing shelters, distributing food, and training others in basic defensive skills. The tall warrior noticed her presence briefly, but did not confront her. He was focused on the task at hand, assessing threats and ensuring the safety of all. Lyra crept closer to him, keeping her distance, recording every movement. Her eyes scanned his face, noting the determination, the calm focus, the sense of responsibility that radiated from him. Finally, a young human noticed her. He froze for a moment, then approached cautiously. "Who are you?" he asked, voice calm but wary. Lyra raised her hands in a gesture of peace. "I mean no harm. I am an observer. I wish to understand." The young human glanced at the tall warrior, who nodded slightly. The young one relaxed a little. "Then you are welcome, but stay out of the way. There is much to do." Lyra nodded. "I will. I only wish to learn." Over the next few hours, she followed the tall warrior from a safe distance, observing his interactions with others. He trained recruits, guided civilians, and planned defensive strategies with precision. Every decision was thoughtful, every action deliberate. At one point, Lyra overheard him speaking to a small group of humans. "Courage is not the absence of fear," he said quietly. "It is the choice to act despite it. Intelligence is not knowing everything. It is learning and adapting. Strength is not in numbers or weapons. It is in unity, in purpose, in resilience." Lyra felt a shiver run down her spine. These were not just words, they were a philosophy, a way of life. The humans had survived not because of luck, but because of courage, intelligence, and unity. Every action she had witnessed now made sense. Kira whispered, "So, that's why they survive. That's why they are legends." Lyra nodded, feeling a mixture of awe and respect. Yes, it is not just skill or luck. It is their spirit, their courage, their intelligence combined. That is what makes them extraordinary. As evening approached, the humans prepared for another skirmish. Lyra stayed hidden, recording everything. The alien forces were approaching, expecting easy victories. But the humans were ready. The tall warrior moved among them, giving silent commands, ensuring everyone was prepared. Lyra watched in amazement as the humans executed a complex plan. Ambushes were set, defensive positions reinforced, and strategies communicated without words. Every move was precise, every action deliberate. The aliens were caught off guard at every turn by nightfall. The humans had successfully defended their camp and guided civilians to safety. The tall warrior stood atop a ridge, scanning the horizon, ensuring everyone was accounted for. Lyra could not tear her eyes away. She had witnessed courage, intelligence, and leadership combined in a way she had never imagined. She realized that the legends she had mocked were not exaggerations. Humans were capable of incredible bravery, unmatched skill, and unwavering resilience. They survived against impossible odds, not by luck, but by intelligence, courage, and unity. Kira looked at her, eyes shining. "Do you finally believe?" Lyra smiled, a mixture of relief and awe in her expression. "Yes, I believe. And I will make sure the galaxy knows the truth about humans." As they retreated to a safe observation point, Lyra reflected on everything she had seen. The humans were not just survivors, they were heroes, leaders, and symbols of hope. She had underestimated them for too long, and now she understood why the legends existed. The tall warrior and his people were not fighting for survival, they were fighting for a future, for unity, and for the belief that intelligence, courage, and purpose could overcome any obstacle. Lyra felt a deep respect for them, a respect that would guide her research and her reports. She had witnessed the truth firsthand. Humans were extraordinary, capable of feats that even the most advanced species struggled to comprehend, and somewhere in the valley below, the humans rested, unaware of the historian who had finally understood their greatness. The sky over Tarex 7 was dark with heavy clouds, a storm brewing above the jagged mountains. The alien forces had regrouped after previous defeats, preparing for a full-scale assault on the human settlement. Lyra watched from her hidden observation point, heart pounding. Today she would witness the humans' true strength, what the legends had always claimed. Kira flapped nervously. "Do you think they can win this?" "There are so many of them." Lyra shook her head slowly, though she could not hide a small smile. "It's not about numbers, Kira. It's about strategy, courage, and unity. Humans have these in abundance." Below, the humans moved with purpose. The tall warrior stood at the center of the camp, his presence commanding respect. Civilians and fighters alike listened to his silent signals, moving as one cohesive unit. Barricades were reinforced, makeshift weapons prepared, and ambush points carefully positioned. Every detail was considered, every angle covered. Lyra adjusted her instruments, documenting every preparation. She had never seen such discipline, such coordination, in a species so small and underestimated. The legends were truth. The humans were extraordinary. The first wave of alien forces advanced, confident in their superior numbers and technology. They expected to overwhelm the humans easily, but the humans were ready. Small squads moved swiftly, striking from shadows, disabling drones, and redirecting enemy movements. Lyra's eyes widened. Every action was precise, deliberate, and effective. The aliens struggled to adapt to tactics they could not predict. For every attack, the humans had a counter. For every trap, they had a plan. And always the tall warrior was at the center, guiding, observing, and protecting. Kira whispered, "They're amazing. Every move, every step." Lyra nodded, barely breathing. "This is what I came to see. This is the truth behind the legends." As the battle intensified, the tall warrior led a small team on a daring mission to capture a key alien command post. He moved with unmatched speed and precision, bypassing traps, disabling defenses, and guiding his team through the chaos. Lyra could hardly believe her eyes. One human, with courage and intelligence, was changing the tide of the battle. The alien forces tried to regroup, but the human strategies had already anticipated their moves. Drones fell into ambushes, squads were outmaneuvered, and confusion spread among the attackers. Every victory, no matter how small, inspired the humans around them. Strengthening their resolve, Lyra recorded every moment, her heart racing. The human skill was not just in combat, was in leadership, coordination, and determination. The tall warrior's presence was the key. His calm, focused demeanor guided his people through the chaos, and his courage inspired them to act beyond their limits. Kira whispered, awed, "It's like watching a legend. A real legend." Lyra smiled faintly. "It is, and I am witnessing it." The battle reached its peak as the tall warrior and his team approached the alien command post. A heavily armored squad blocked their path. Lyra held her breath. The humans were outnumbered, outgunned, and seemingly trapped. Yet they did not falter. The warrior observed, assessed, and acted. With a quick signal, his team moved as one. They used the terrain to their advantage, creating diversions, disabling weapons, and advancing strategically. Each human acted with intelligence and courage, overcoming obstacles that seemed impossible. Finally, the command post fell. Alien forces were thrown into disarray, retreating in confusion. The humans had achieved the impossible. A small, determined group had defeated a superior enemy through skill, strategy, and bravery. Lyra could not contain her awe. She had spent her career studying legends, dismissing stories as exaggerations. Yet here she was, witnessing a real human warrior. Leading his people to victory against all odds, the tall warrior emerged from the chaos, bloodied but unbroken. He moved among his people, ensuring everyone was safe. Civilians were guided to shelter, wounded fighters were helped, and morale remained high. His presence alone inspired confidence, courage, and determination. Lyra's heart swelled with admiration. She had come as a skeptic, intending to observe failure, to prove that humans were ordinary. Instead, she had witnessed greatness. Humans were not just survivors, they were leaders, warriors, and symbols of hope. As the alien forces retreated, the humans gathered in the camp. The tall warrior addressed his people, his voice calm but strong. "We fight not because we want conflict, but because we believe in life, in hope, and in the courage to act when others cannot. Every one of you is a part of this victory. We survive together, we fight together, and we rise together." Lyra watched in silence, tears forming in her eyes. She had never expected to feel such respect, such awe. Humans had surpassed every expectation, every legend, and every doubt she had held. Kira nudged her softly. "You believe now?" Lyra nodded, voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, I believe, and the galaxy must know. Humans are extraordinary. Their courage, intelligence, and unity are unmatched." The night fell over Terrax 7, the storm above breaking into light rain. The humans worked through the night, securing their camp, helping the wounded, and preparing for whatever might come next. Their resilience was remarkable, their spirit unbroken. Lyra recorded everything, her mind racing with thoughts. She had come to observe, to study, to document, but she had found something more: inspiration. The humans had reminded her of the power of courage, the value of intelligence, and the importance of unity. For centuries, the galaxy had underestimated humanity. Stories had been told, dismissed, or doubted. But now, Lyra knew the truth. The legends were real, and the humans had lived up to them, proving that courage, intelligence, and unity could overcome even the greatest odds. As dawn approached, Lyra and Kira prepared to leave Terrax 7. The battle was won, for now, and the humans had secured their place as warriors to be respected, feared, and admired. Before departing, Lyra took one last look at the camp. The tall warrior stood atop a ridge, watching over his people, vigilant and unyielding. He was a living legend, proof that humans were extraordinary, and that the stories she had once mocked were true. Lyra whispered, "May the galaxy remember this day." The day the legends of human warriors were confirmed. Kira smiled softly. "Do you think the humans know how extraordinary they are?" Lyra shook her head, a small smile forming. "Perhaps not, but now I do. And I will tell the story, so everyone else will know too." The observation craft lifted off from Terrax 7, carrying Lyra and Kira into the skies. Below, the humans continued their work. Unaware of the historian who had finally understood their greatness, Lyra looked out at the stars, feeling a sense of hope and admiration. Humans were not weak. Humans were not ordinary. They were extraordinary. They had survived against impossible odds, led with courage, and inspired all who witnessed them. And somewhere in the galaxy, she knew their legend would continue to grow because she had seen it, recorded it, and would ensure that the truth of humanity's strength would never be forgotten. Lyra smiled, a mixture of pride and awe filling her heart. She had come as a skeptic, mocking the stories of human warriors. But she was leaving as a believer, having witnessed the power, courage, and brilliance of a species that refused to be underestimated. The tall warrior, scarred but unbroken, stood as a symbol for all humans everywhere, living testament to the legend. She had once doubted the galaxy would never see humanity the same way again.